You get the sense that this Carroll-Russell Wilson run is over. You get that sense. You get the sense watching it. You just get the sense seeing it that the magic is gone. Poof, like Kaiser Soze. And maybe it's the setup of the spring and the summer where we were talking about Russell Wilson having wanderlust. Him going on our buddy DP show, the one that precedes us on NBC Sports on Peacock and NBC Sports Audio, SiriusXM Channel 85 every day. He goes on right after winning the Walter Payton Man of the Year award at the Super Bowl, watches Tom Brady win the Super Bowl next to Roger Goodell in his box, and it looked like somebody stole his lunchbox. And he tells Dan the protection up front for him is got to change. And then the stories come out that he wants a trade, and his agent even gives a couple of teams out there, right? I mean, you all know the story of how it seemed like he wanted out and had even presented a couple of teams with the opportunity to go knock on John Schneider, the general manager's door, and say, I want Russ because he wants us. And there's apparently a confab, like a little bit of a conclave at Trey Lance's pro day. Remember that? And it ended with Russ staying in Seattle. And then Russ saying, go Hawks, like he always used to. And then everything is all copacetic. And Pete Carroll came on this show in the summer, and I brought all this stuff up. And he's like, this is kind of old news. And I'm like, yeah, but Coach, we haven't spoken since that news became old.
Right. So
it's kind of a new ground for us to cover. And it's all good in the hood. And then I think we all agreed at least in the NFL media who talk about this stuff and hear about this stuff and hear stuff that doesn't get reported and chitter chatter. And like I said, everybody talks. It's more than just somebody's cousin or brother, as Urban Meyer found out. That this season's result would go a long way in determining Russell Wilson's future in Seattle. And as of last night, in which the offense couldn't put points on the board again, or enough points on the board again, the loss last night clinched Russell Wilson's first losing season as a professional quarterback, even with the longest regular season ever, even with one extra game to avoid being under 500 by the end of the season. Even with all that, that's clinched with 3 games to go, 5-9. Last time the Seahawks had a losing record was the year before Russ got drafted. And the offense, DK Metcalf, has disappeared. Now, I know Tyler Lockett wasn't in the game last night. And I know Chris Carson's not in the game. I get it. So many teams are without people. And boy, did they get some bad breaks, too. The fact that there was no pass interference on DJ Dallas last night, when the ball was underthrown, Dallas was coming back to the ball, the defender between him and the ball wasn't looking for the ball and hit him early. I mean, that is every single check mark, certainly in this day and age where so many pass interference calls give the throwing team a bailout because it's thrown short and the receiver's coming back for it. How many times do you see that in the NFL? We're showing a photograph of it right now. I mean, my gosh, the ball's not in arm's grasp yet of DJ Dallas, and he's already being hit. An awful call from midfield on 4th down. Absolutely should have been Seattle's ball, but then, they would have had to have scored. They would have scored a touchdown, which has been very difficult for them to do. How has DK Metcalf disappeared? I'm sure he's wondering that. And this was supposed to be a year in which, everything was supposed to be hunky-dory, and they're under 500. I do not know how this plays out Of course, none of us do. None of us do. But you have to sit here and look at the time on the clock on the wall based on how the clock got to the time it was and what we heard from Russ and then from his camp that 5-9, maybe a 10th loss coming. You take a look at the rest of their schedule. It's 3 in a row. I mean, Seattle, I don't know where they come up 3 in a row based on how poorly they're playing offensively. They're just not putting any points on the board. Bobby Wagner's got to be pulling his hair out of his head because he's just playing still lights out football. They do play the Bears coming up next, and the Bears are so bad. Here's how bad the Bears are.
How bad are they?
The Bears are so bad that the pick that the Giants have from them is better than the one the Giants have just from how bad the Giants are.
Wait, say that again.
The Giants have true draft choices, their own.
And the Bears?
And one from the Bears.
What trade was that?
Justin Fields.
Oh, right.
And the Bears pick that the Giants have is better than the one that the Giants have on their own right about how putrid they are. That's how bad the Bears are. Yep. The Giants pick 5th and 6th, and the 5th overall pick is from the Bears. That's how bad the Bears are. So maybe Seattle gets a dub right there. And then it doesn't matter. They're going to have a losing record, and there's going to be a reckoning. And the question is what do you do? What do you do? And maybe, just maybe, this is what I was thinking when I watched the Seahawks leave the field last night here in Los Angeles. You know, Pete's old stomping grounds. Same thing with Ken Norton Jr., my first NFL Total Access analyst. And
who got poached from you by Pete.
That's right, yes, back in the day. And he, it's the thing I was thinking of as they walked off in Los Angeles. I'm like, this thing appears over. It just really feels that way to me. Could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because the 12s love Russ and love what he and Pete did together. I just don't know anymore. And you have to sit there and think, certainly without a first overall draft choice, do you go replenish that and go send Russell Wilson somewhere else and get somebody's boatload of draft choices? Because right now, despite how poorly they've played on offense, I still don't think generally people think Russ has lost it. And his trade value isn't as potent as it would have been this past spring. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.